Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So today I got a fun and weird video for you guys today because we're playing Delisoba Deluxe. Just recently a copy went up for sale on eBay, and because this was a gift given away on a TV show, not an actual retail game, to say it is rare would be an understatement. It's widely considered to be one of the rarest Sega Saturn games of all time, and it does seem to take the crown for the most expensive game as well, clocking in at 3 to 4 mortgage payments depending on how much your house actually costs. And the reason I'm making this is hilariously, I had like 7 or 8 people actually send me the actual auction asking if I was going to pick it up for my collection. Now, I'm not sure how much money you think Video Game Esoterica has, but trust me, this is not going to be in my budget for a game like this. Don't get too much further involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But the history of this game, it actually isn't a retail game. It was on a television show, Tokyo Friends Park, where people basically sat on a motorcycle and controlled this as a mini game within the actual television show. The second most interesting part about this is it is made by Cave, the same developer that makes all those amazing bullet hell shmups that also sell for a metric crap ton of money, especially the arcade boards. But I don't think there's a Cave arcade board out there, at least I've seen price-wise, that would rival Delisoba Deluxe. So it seems like Cave's most expensive game is going to be this little racing title that was only made for a television show. And that is the fun part. This isn't a unique thing. Back in the day, there'd be TV shows or other competitions where they'd release games that weren't actually made available to the retail public, kind of like some of the Caravan stuff on PC Engine. You could pick up a copy there, but you would never actually be able to walk into a store and buy it. So the reality is nobody knows how many copies of Delisoba Deluxe even exist, if it was given away to people that went to the show, if it was just given away to people that played the game on the show. Actually putting a quantifiable number to how many copies of this game could still be out in the wild is an impossibility. So that's why you're going to see it commands the price that it does, and trust me, this is absolutely one of the most insane prices to the actual gameplay that you're going to see on the channel. Now, if you want to run out and get a copy yourself, you can get it for the princely sum of $8,301.24, but don't worry, that has been discounted from $8,900 in change. Now, obviously this game is not worth anything like that in the gameplay department, but if somebody out there trying to get a Saturn full set, especially Japanese region, may actually put the money down to acquire something like this, because trust me, this is not the type of thing that comes up all the time. There's some games out there that you can hunt for years for and never see a copy appear, because trust me, that's probably why people message me asking if I would buy this thing. That is what I love to do, just collect games that basically are impossible to actually locate. Now, as far as the gameplay is concerned, it actually is a ton of fun. It is basically just a racing game where you have to get from point A to point B within the time period set. But of course, there's going to be a ton of different things in your way, obstacles, cows, buses, and everything else. And obviously on the TV show, there would have been a bigger control scheme, but this game did get ported over to Sega Saturn, and it actually has new features that were never actually on the television show in and of itself. If I had to compare it to something visually, kind of feels a little bit like Road Rash on the 3DO, except obviously you're trying to deliver noodles here versus just racing motorcycles down the street. But trust me, trying to get a clean run in this game is quite difficult. It is challenging and it is a ton of fun. Now, if it reminds me of anything, and that is in a good way, it is basically the Sega Saturn's version of Pepsi Man, except you actually have a timer, and you can take as many hits as possible. So it's kind of like Pepsi Man meets Outrun, except as a delivery noodle game that was only featured on a Japanese television show and never released to retail. And how many other games can you say those qualifiers for? And for some strange reason you never play Pepsi Man, take it from me, you have to play this one. And moving back over to Delisoba Deluxe, it is a fun title, and it really shows just how versatile Cave was back in the day when it came to making titles for arcades as well as home consoles, because they're widely known for their shmups. Obviously that is their bread and butter, but they made racing games, they made puzzle games as well that never usually hit. This must have just been a contract job they took on for this television show to make a little mini game that ran on Sega Saturn so they could actually play on television and have guests compete. And definitely Cave was a good choice for this one just because they always have a certain visual style. Good thing is the game also has some great music, so it's soundtrack sample one time right now. Go ahead and listen for 45 seconds. I'll come back and talk more about the history of the game and what engine it actually runs on. Now, honestly, I'm not really sure what type of soundtrack you want for a minigame where you deliver noodles, but it definitely works. And now I don't have any evidence of this. My guess would be that this game was either made on something that was the Steep Slope Sliders engine or very derivative of it, because Cave does have a lineage of making 3D games on Sega Saturn hardware, both for arcades on that Sega Titan video core, as well as something like the actual Sega Saturn in and of itself. And some of the visuals I'm seeing here definitely remind me of Delisoba Deluxe, so my guess would be that there is some technology under the hood shared between that game and Steep Slope Sliders. Obviously, one's going to be a lot more affordable than the other one, and a lot more fun as well, but I figured I'd kind of talk about that just because Cave isn't really known to work in 3D all that often outside of Death Smiles 2 in the kind of quote-unquote modern era. As we jump back, you're going to see that there is a second mode here. This is time attack mode, and honestly, this gorilla throwing bananas into traffic is just kind of fun and hilarious. It has the same weird sense of humor, something like Point Blank does, kind of mixing in polygons as well as 2D sprites, and I would say the game really is fun to look at and it is fun to play. The only thing here is that it takes about 2.5 minutes to complete a race, and then you've seen everything the game has to offer, but interestingly enough, I'll show you in just a moment, it also has a map editor, which must just be something that Cave threw onto the disc as a little bit of a bonus, because obviously I don't read or speak Japanese, so I didn't get very far in it, and it didn't really seem to be the most fully featured thing I've ever seen either. But if you have $8,000, this is something that you can just go pick up and play today, but it really is indicative of just how wild the Saturn collecting market and the Saturn game market can be. Because there are a bunch of games out there that got extremely limited print numbers, and some games like Delisoba Deluxe here, we don't even know how many exist of. It could be 50, it could be 100, it could be 5,000, but if you think about it this way, even if they gave away 1,000 of them, how many of those would still exist like 2.5 decades later? If you figure maybe 75% got thrown in the recycling bin or sold to some secondhand store back in the day, maybe that didn't really go anywhere, was given away and forgotten about, that could leave just a handful of these actual games still out there in the public, and that is why it commands something like $8,000. Now, the third and last mode is coin collect mode, and this is actually really useful because the coins are set out so that you can actually collect them and basically have an accident-free run. It is just a guideline showing you where not to go when you're playing the game and where to go. And because you collect a lot of coins and medals and otherwise, and Cave Bullet Hell shmups kind of reminded me of a 3D version of that, except in a race course. Now again, I don't think anyone would actually shell the money out for this thing outside of the most hardcore of Sega Saturn collectors, but they do exist, because collectors that like getting rarities, we all have the things that we would be willing to drop a lot of money on. You just have to find the right buyer, and that's when I said people messaged me asking if I was going to buy this. I said absolutely not, no interest in it whatsoever outside of playing it and talking about it on the channel. And this is the map editor right here, definitely something you wouldn't expect to see in any sort of game on Sega Saturn, let alone one that was just a giveaway and not an actual retail release. But you can go through the game, look at the graphics, kind of edit things, and I presume actually race here as well, but I was never able to figure out how to get into that menu. So if you do know that, leave me a comment down below and tell me in the comments, did you even know Delisoba Deluxe actually existed, or are you finding it out from the first time here? But one more soundtrack sample because I love the music, 35 seconds, and I'll be right back with more details. I mean, I love all the sound effects except the coin collecting sound. That gets a little annoying as you get like 15, 20, 50 coins in a row. And you're definitely going to have to keep your coins close to your chest if you're going to want to buy this one. Because think of it this way, you could buy like 4 copies of Panzer Dragoon Saga for the same price as one Delisoba Deluxe, and you would have a ton more fun. But this isn't really a review, but if I had to review the game, I'd say it's 5 minutes worth of fun, and definitely not worth $8,000. This is more of a video about talking about just how weird the Sega Saturn market can be, and how many rare games exist from that actual era in the 90s, because as a collector there's always stuff that somebody is looking for, and somebody's going to see this and probably try to negotiate a deal to get it into their collection, because there's games I've been looking for 5-10 years now that have never shown up for sale. And even though I'm probably not going to spend $8 grand, because I am in the process of shopping for houses with my wife, maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I was a little bit less responsible, I might actually put the credit card down for something that I really wanted at that price, even if it would be a bad financial decision. But in all honesty, not a joke. My wife has her 401k, I have my 401k, we have other investments, and I have my video game collection. And when I say the thing that appreciates the most in value is video games, I 100% mean it. It is kicking the ever-living shit out of our 401ks, no joke. So maybe buying something like this at 8 grand today could be sold for $16,000 in 5 years. Video games are weird, they're expensive, and I love them. See you next time. Bye-bye.